Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, we'll discuss three varieties of traditional men's hats, namely the Trilby, Homburg, and the pork pie hat, as well as how to wear these styles and others with confidence. This video is the third in a three-part series on hats. The first part, which you can find here, covered terminology and basic construction materials, and the second part, which you can find here, discussed etiquette related to wearing hats. As we mentioned, this third part will feature some hat styles that we recommend adding to your collection. Also, you can take a look at our previous videos covering hats here. Guides related to the Fedora, the flat cap, and the Panama hat, as well as a guide on how to select the right hat for your specific face shape. Speaking of our Fedora guide, it's common practice these days for most people, and even for some retailers, to refer to any hat with a shaped crown and a full brim as a fedora. However, this isn't quite correct. Rather, there are a number of other specific hats with similar attributes that have their own unique histories. We'll cover three of these fedora siblings today and tell you how you can wear them with style. We'll start today with the hat that's most closely visually related to the fedora, the Trilby. Also referred to as a sloucher or slouch hat, and named for the heroine of an 1894 novel by George Du Maurier, the Trilby is sort of a little brother to the standard fedora. Like the fedora, the Trilby also features a creased, tapered crown with a front pinch, but it's slightly more streamlined with a shorter snap brim, which usually features a simple sewn edge, and sometimes a very narrow band across the bottom of the crown. Originally associated primarily with the trench coat, the Trilby evolved in the 1920s to a softer hat, worn often in the English countryside and also at the racetrack. For these reasons, it's typically seen as a slightly more informal hat than the standard fedora, but not by much. In recent years, small trilbies with very narrow brims, often printed in loud patterns across the hat and made from synthetic materials, became a popular fashion item. However, these types of trilbies also quickly developed something of an unsavory reputation and brought the standard fedora down with them to a certain extent. However, if you stick to wearing a classically styled trilby, as I do for most of my own personal hats, you'll be able to overcome this stigma. Also, they do look particularly good on men with strong facial features, so take that into consideration as well. Now that we've covered the little brother of the fedora, let's turn our attention to the older brother, so to speak, that being the Homburg. Next to the top hat, the Homburg is the most formal of all men's hats. It's named for the German spa and resort town where it was first seen, and also where it was popularized by King Edward VII when he was then still Prince of Wales, on vacation in the 1890s. Proper for both day and evening wear, the black or dark blue Homburg is worn with a dark business suit, stroller suit, or tuxedo, depending on the occasion, and also pairs well with a Chesterfield overcoat in winter in other various colors. Also, if you'd like to check out our guide on proper black tie attire, as well as our guide on morning dress, you can consult those guides here. The Homburg is constructed with much more stiffness than the fedora, and features a brim with a slight curl around the edge that's also typically faced in the same sort of ribbon that you'll find around the crown. Speaking of the crown, the Homburg's crown is typically very tall and also features a center dent. A favorite hat of diplomats and politicians like Winston Churchill, and also featured prominently in the Godfather film series, the Homburg typically looks best on older and more distinguished gentlemen, as well as men with defined facial features. You can still wear a Homburg if you have a rounder face, however. Just try to find one with a slightly lower crown and a bit of a wider brim to balance things out. Our last sibling of the fedora to be covered in today's video is the one that has perhaps the most unique name, the pork pie hat. Also called the English pastry hat, the pork pie got its name from its telescoped crown, which features a slight lip around the upper edge of the crown and therefore looks similar to a traditional English meat pie. Normally featuring a snap brim, pork pies flourished among college students in the 1930s and were also popularized by Hollywood stars like Fred Astaire and Cary Grant, as well as jazz musicians like saxophonist Lester Young, who was elegized by his contemporary, bassist Charles Mingus, in the 1959 song Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. Pork pies also have a strong and storied association with sporting events, particularly horse racing. Furthermore, the golfer Sam Snead was often known to wear pork pies made from straw, often in coconut, and featuring bands with colorful patterns like madras. Pork pies are definitely on the more casual end of the spectrum as full-brimmed hats go, and they can tend to give the wearer a slightly squat appearance. As such, shorter men and men with rounder faces should exercise caution when wishing to wear a pork pie. There's a basic overview of these three different styles. We've given you a few general tips already on how to wear each of them, but here are a few more pieces of advice on how to wear all of these types of full-brimmed hats with confidence. Many men are hesitant to wear traditional full-brimmed hats for one primary reason. They'll look out of place, dated, or otherwise affected. It should be said that this fear isn't necessarily completely without merit. If the hat doesn't match the rest of the outfit in terms of formality, isn't being worn with the proper detail, like snapping the brim down for example, or doesn't correspond well to the wearer's face shape, it will look out of place. Confidence is key, however, and if you pair that confidence with the following tips, you'll be sure to be able to wear any of these styles with relative ease. As these hats all have sizable and styled crowns, they're generally well suited to shorter men or men with a stockier build, as they elongate the face, draw the eye upwards, and overall give a more vertical appearance. As far as the brim is concerned, remember that this is the feature of the hat that should most directly correspond to your own specific face shape. For a refresher on how to pair hats to your face shape, watch our previous video here. In general, though, wider brims typically complement long oval faces, whereas narrower brims pair well with shorter, rounder faces. And as you may have picked up on earlier, men with strong and chiseled facial features are lucky in that they can get away with wearing pretty much any style of these hats. In terms of pairing these hats with your outfits, you can't go wrong in coupling them with traditional coat and tie ensembles, whether that be a full suit or a combination of sport coat and odd trousers. Because of the sporting heritage of trilbies and pork pies, they go well with more rustically styled outfits, especially ones featuring tweed or layered with a sweater. Color-wise, brown is a very safe bet for both trilbies and pork pies, whereas the more formal Homburg will typically look best in black or very dark blue. There are, of course, other traditional men's hat styles that we didn't cover in today's video, the top hat or the bowler hat being two primary examples. The world of menswear is vast, but be assured that we will cover these hats and others in the future, so stay tuned. Out of the styles that we covered today, which one do you think that you might be able to incorporate into your wardrobe first? Let us know in the comments section below. And as always, a reminder to subscribe to the Gentleman's Gazette YouTube channel so these videos come straight to your inbox. In today's video, I'm wearing a herringbone sport coat. It's charcoal gray, but also features elements of black, white, and even a hint of brown. My shirt, which is from Charles Tyrwhitt, features a grid pattern of pink and blue on a white background. Most of the other elements in my wardrobe today are from Fort Belvedere, and we'll start with the tie, which is a silk knit tie in mottled blue and brown. The blue, of course, harmonizes with the blue in my shirt, and the brown is dark enough that it still remains harmonious with most of the other elements of the outfit, as well as bringing out some of those subtle brown tones in the sport coat. The pocket square is a dark blue linen featuring a white hand-rolled X stitch, and the boutonniere is a light blue Veronica Persica. My final Fort Belvedere accessories today are my cufflinks, which are palladium-plated sterling silver and feature lapis lazuli as the stone. You can find all of these Fort Belvedere accessories in our shop here. My trousers are plain black, as are my socks, and my shoes are cap-toe black Darbies. And of course, today's outfit is topped off by a hat. It's a vintage charcoal gray trilby. You could also perhaps call it a stingy brimmed fedora, since the band is relatively wide, and the style kind of sits between both of these. I thought this hat would be a good choice, not only because the color directly corresponds to the color of the sport coat, but also, given the sporting heritage of the trilby, I thought the hat would pair well with the thick tweed of the coat, as well as the knit of the tie.